What I'm going to do now is modify the dogs package that I created in an earlier video in order to use two different transactions. When I originally created this package, it had a single transaction at the package level. But now, I'm going to show you how you can group tasks into different sequence containers in order to encapsulate subsets of package tasks that have to all succeed or all fail as a group. Essentially, we're getting more granular with transactions within this single package. Okay, first thing I need to do is delete the precedence constraint between the add good dog data and the add bad dog data. And then I'm going to add a couple of sequence containers. Double click on one, double click on two, and so now we have two sequence containers. And I actually didn't want one to be nested, so let me drag the second one over. Okay, I have two sequence containers. So I'm going to rename this one to be called Good Dog Actions. And I'll rename this one to be named Bad Dog Actions. And then what I'm going to do is select both of these tasks here, the Create Dogs table and the Add Good Dog Data, and drag them into this Good Dog Actions container. They ended up on top of each other. Let me move those around a little bit. Let's see if I can actually... The designer doesn't always cooperate as nicely as it should. Okay, it's not letting me. There we go. Okay. Get that rearranged. And okay, sometimes the designer just drives me nuts. It's not showing me a precedence constraint. There we go. Okay, it was just stuck up in the corner and didn't show it. All right, the designer has quirks, I'm sorry to say. Hopefully in future versions of data tools that'll get smoothed out. Okay, I'm going to move the container just a little bit just to make absolute sure those tasks are contained within it. And then I'm going to move this sequence container over a bit and add this task to it. Drag and drop it, move it around a little bit. Yep, it's going along with it. Okay, so I've added the Create Dogs table and Add Good Dog Data to this sequence container and the Add Bad Dog Data to this container here. Okay, I want to do a precedence constraint between them. Remember, the sequence container has its own precedence constraint, so I'll drag that. If I resize this a little bit, make it a little bit clearer. Come on. That's going to move it. Move it over a little bit. Boy, it is just really misbehaving. There we go. Okay, I just wanted to make it really clear that this precedence constraint here is between the containers, not directly between tasks that are contained within the containers. And by the way, you can always use the Format Auto Layout option here in order to lay out the diagram. The option will align tasks and straighten connection, generally put tasks that occur before other tasks higher and to the left in the diagram. But it isn't perfect and often requires some hand tuning and complex packages. But if you have a lot of tasks, it can save you some time and kind of unobfuscate things if you just have a big mess of a control flow. So just be aware of that. And then there's various other prettifying options here to align things, make them the same size, and so forth. All right, so I've reconfigured the package, and now I need to change some of the transaction settings. So first thing I want to do is come over here into the Properties window for the package. So I don't have anything selected in it. In fact, I didn't mention I clicked on the package here so that nothing inside the package was selected. This is the Properties window for the package. And I'm going to change the transaction option here to support it. So in this particular scenario, This setting is going to mean that the package is not going to use a transaction at the package scope. Okay, so we have no transactions at this point. Now I'm going to select the good dog actions. And I'm going to come over here to the properties window once again and change the transaction option here to required. And then, just to be a little bit paranoid, I'll look at each of the tasks. It's supported, so it's going to use that transaction, and this one is supported as well. Okay, so this container now has a required transaction. When this container executes, it's going to create a transaction because there isn't a transaction at any higher level within this package. Okay, and I'll do the same thing for bad dog actions. Come here to Properties, set that to Required, select the task within it, just to be paranoid, make sure it's still supported. Okay, that didn't change. And now I have two separate transactions. I have this container with the scope of a transaction. Once this container executes, the transaction will commit or roll back as a unit here. If this container executes, in other words, if this successfully executes, then this container will execute, starts a new transaction, and that commits or fails independently of the transaction here. So I have two different transactions within the package. Okay, once again, just want to come back over here, refresh this, make absolute sure dogs didn't sneak back in there. Good. Now, dogs sometimes have a way of wiggling their ways into things. So I'll start this. Package executes. And as you can see, once again, the good dog actions successfully executed. I created the table. I added the good dog data. And this completed successfully. So this precedence constraint requirement was met. And so this container started executing. But this threw an error, rolled back the transaction at this level, and it didn't succeed. Okay, so let's use the progress tag to see what happened. So as you can see, the bad dog data failed because I had the primary key constraint, same sort of thing as before. And then it aborted the current transaction. But here are the good dog actions. So the order in which this is actually reversed, so it's adding things to the top more or less. Validation started, start, progress, executed that query, and it finished. No problems, we're good. And there's the create dogs table, progress, successfully finished. Okay? And there you can also see that it started the distributed transaction and it committed the distributed transaction. So the transaction on this container, good dog actions, completed successfully and was committed. And then this transaction executed, had an error, and was rolled back. And by the way, the output window displays much of the same information that you find within the progress window. But it's just a lot easier to read the progress window, particularly since you can scan for the red X icons here and see where any errors occurred. All right, let's go back over to SQL Server Management Studio, refresh the list of tables right there. Dogs exists. If I select the data, it has the good data within it. And once again, it doesn't contain any of the bad dog data because that transaction was rolled back. So the moral here is that the transactions from the two sequence containers committed and rolled back independently. All right, I can go back over to Data Tools and stop that package from executing.